Northern Greece, flanked by the rugged fastness of the Pindus Mountains and the blue expanse of the Aegean Sea. This is a land of mystery. It's a region of enchanting villages, hidden valleys, and mountaintop lakes where dragons roam. 100 years ago, its greatest city, Thessaloniki, rose phoenix-like from the ashes of fire. In this land, old and new live side by side. And an island with a fighting spirit is defended by not just one, but two mighty fortresses. Over 2,000 years ago, Julius Caesar's assassin sought refuge in this sheltered harbor, only to end his days in defeat and suicide. This is the home of the Channel, where the young seek eternal love. The mountain where the god Zeus was said to hurl thunderbolts. And Greece's answer to the Grand Canyon. It's not the world's biggest gorge, but it still makes the record books. Travel with the daring farmers who navigate one of the world's most dangerous roads. Scale the pinnacles that inspired a dramatic location in Game of Thrones. And visit the monastery where holy men took a stand against James Bond. On a tranquil island, a fairy tale wedding chapel inspired the hit musical Mamma Mia. This region is home to women who fought fascism and an infant who left this palace in a fruit box. These days, he's better known as Prince Philip, husband of Queen Elizabeth II. From the steam train that travels through a mythological forest and a picture postcard landscape, to the gravity-defying dancer who wants more than anything to preserve her backdrop. This is the unrivaled natural beauty and pulsating culture of northern Greece. The fabled Mount Olympus is the highest and most majestic of Greece's mountains. Olympus soars to a height of 9,500 feet. It's a fitting home for the gods. According to legend, 12 deities dwell on Olympus's highest peak, Mytikas. The ancients called Mytikas Pantheon, which means honor all gods. They were said to live in the peak's alpine ravines, which the poet Homer described as mysterious folds. Among them were Zeus, the king of the gods, Aphrodite, the goddess of love, and Dionysus, the god of wine. The gods feature in many legends of war and intrigue. Perhaps the most dramatic is the tale of the creature Typhon, who had 100 snake heads and eyes blazing fire. Typhon attacked the mountain, causing such chaos and destruction that the gods themselves fled. Only Zeus remained. At last, the king of the gods managed to smite Typhon to the earth with thunderbolts. It's from this legend that we get the term typhoon, for a ferocious and destructive storm. Some 80 miles from Olympus lies Kalambaka, the threshold of another equally celebrated high place. For a town in such an ancient land, Kalambaka has a surprisingly modern appearance. All the houses look similar, with white walls and red rooftops. But Kalambaka's setting is show-stopping. It's the gateway to one of the most incredible regions in all of Greece. Immediately north of the town, towering rock formations dominate the skyline. They stand like titans surveying the landscape. This is Meteora. The name means suspended in the air, and it's easy to see why. The sandstone pinnacles soar upwards, with the tallest reaching a height of 2,000 feet. Some 60 million years ago, this area was a large river estuary. A series of earthquakes pushed the riverbed upwards, creating a high plateau broken by fault lines. Since that time, the stones have been shaped and sculpted by untold millennia of wind, rain, and earthquakes. Meteora is a place unlike anywhere else on Earth, and yet many will recognize it. It inspired one of the most atmospheric locations in the hit drama series Game of Thrones. This is the setting for Eyrie Castle, a fortress in the clouds, where the unlucky plunge to their deaths through the Moon Door. This otherworldly landscape has always attracted humans. During the Middle Ages, Christian monks established 24 monasteries on these dizzying heights. Today, only 6 still remain as functioning monasteries. The monastery of Varlam takes its name from the hermit who lived on the site some 700 years ago. On a sheer sandstone precipice stands the great Meteoron, the oldest of the monasteries. Going to and from this place would get you fit in no time. Stairs rise along the natural contours of the cliff until they reach a village in the air, some 2,000 feet above sea level. The great Meteoron has stood here for over 600 years, clinging to the summit of the rock. For centuries, Christian hermits have come here in search of spiritual isolation. A small number of monks still live here. Most of their income comes from tourism, with thousands visiting the monastery annually. This is the smallest of the monasteries. Perhaps the most iconic of all these religious houses is the Monastery of the Holy Trinity. Built in 1475, the monastery is well known for its iconic white cross. Once, 40 monks lived here, but now there's only one. For centuries, the only contact the monks had with the outside world was a basket that they lowered down for food and supplies from this wooden balcony. These days, there's a more modern option, but today, it's an especially harrowing ride. The doors on the monastery's cable car have been removed for repairs, making this worker's trip even more scenic than usual. One false move could send him plummeting over 1,000 feet to the valley below. It's a stunt worthy of James Bond. Appropriate, since the Holy Trinity featured in the Bond movie For Your Eyes Only. In the film, the monastery doubles as the fictional St. Cyril's, where Bond goes to foil a KGB plot. To gain access, he has to scale the sheer rock face, a next to impossible task for most people, and a difficult one even for 007. The local authorities gave the go-ahead for filming at Holy Trinity, but the monks feared the movie would be too violent. They tried to stop the shoot by putting sheets and plastic on the monastery's roofs. The dispute led to a compromise. The producers could shoot the monastery, but only on the outside. Greece makes a great backdrop for action, and an even better one for romance. It's no surprise that Hollywood has returned time and again to Greece, given its array of stunning scenic locations. In 2007, the blockbuster musical Mamma Mia was filmed here at Kastani Beach, on the island of Skopelos. This is where the characters Sophie and Sky reveal their love for each other, to the strains of ABBA's Lay All Your Love on Me. The beautiful chapel of Ios Ioannis Kastri hosted the movie's wedding scenes. Nikos Sofiriou and Evangelia Taktikou are delighted to celebrate their marriage in this beautiful location. It's not the easiest place to reach. 110 stone-carved steps ascend to the tiny chapel. Mamma Mia fans who'd like to tie the knot here may face another slight problem. You have to be Greek Orthodox to get married in this church. Back on the mainland, the Pelion Peninsula looks out on the shimmering blue of the Pegasetic Gulf. It's a place whose physical beauty has inspired soaring works of art, including some iconic soundtracks. The Greek composer Vangelis attained worldwide fame with his haunting scores for the films Blade Runner and Chariots of Fire. Vangelis was born not far from Ano, Laconia. This village is home to a famous chariot, not of fire, but of steam. This is the Pelion steam train, known affectionately as Smudgy. It's a mutsuri, which in Greek means smoky train. The train is headed for Melius village, just 5 miles away as the crow flies. But the route winds so much through mountainous and forested terrain that it takes the train an hour and a half to complete the trip. The track cuts through a forest of walnut, beech, and oak trees. In Greek mythology, they provided the timber for the ship in which Jason and the Argonauts set sail in search of the Golden Fleece. Building a railway through such challenging terrain was a major engineering challenge, and it required several steel and stone bridges. The most impressive is Kalorema, a viaduct with 5 arches. The reason for the name is obvious. In Greek, kalorama means fine view. Finally, the train reaches the historic station at Milius. Smudgy has successfully completed another journey. Greece's second largest city, Thessaloniki, stands at the upper end of the Thermaic Gulf. Today, the city's waterfront looks peaceful and prosperous, as does its magnificent central plaza, Aristoteles Square. But a century ago, not far from here, a spark from a kitchen fire ignited a pile of straw. Strong winds fanned the fire into an inferno, and soon the entire docks and city center area were ablaze. The fire completely destroyed the area now occupied by Aristoteles Square and obliterated nearly 10,000 houses. Until at last, firefighters managed to extinguish it. The Great Fire of Thessaloniki remains one of the worst disasters in modern Greek history. In 1918, city planners drew up ambitious plans for a new urban layout. Rising literally from the ashes, Aristoteles Square stands at the center of the new Thessaloniki. Thessaloniki may not have the touristic pulling power of Athens or the islands, but the city, also known as Saloniki, has many surprises up its sleeve. And a history that dates back over 2,300 years. The Romans once ruled here, and their magnificent architecture still astounds. The Rotunda once served as a mausoleum for the Roman emperor. It later became a Christian church. But in the 15th century, the Ottoman Turks conquered the region that is now Greece. They turned the Rotunda into a mosque. It became a symbol of the mighty Ottoman Empire. So did the iconic White Tower, once used as an Ottoman prison. This building on Hagia Sophia Square has another kind of story. It's said to be haunted. The Red House got its name from its distinctive color. But it has a strange history. Built in 1928, the house acquired an aura of bad luck when the owner's textile factory burned to the ground. More ominously, residents claimed to encounter ghosts and even vampires in the building. Believing the mansion cursed, the owners abandoned it. In 1983, the Greek government put an order of preservation on it, and it housed a cafe and a restaurant. In 2014, the owner of Thessaloniki's football team, Ivan Savvidis, purchased the property for $4.5 million. Locals feared that the sinister house would cast a curse on their football team. But in 2018 to 2019, the team had its best season ever, winning the Greek League for the first time in 34 years. It also went through the season unbeaten. So maybe the Red House isn't cursed after all. Not far away on Thessaloniki's waterfront is a sculpture commemorating a hometown hero. This 20-foot-high statue was unveiled in 1973 to honor one of the most famous kings of all time, Alexander the Great. Alexander was born near Thessaloniki in 356 BC. By the time of his death, 33 years later, he had conquered much of the known world. Some 50 miles to the west stands the place where Alexander received his education. Cloaked in trees and foliage, these are the time-worn remains of the ancient school of Mieza. The boy Alexander attended school here, sleeping, cooking his meals, and studying in a cave like this one. His teacher was one of Greece's greatest philosophers, Aristotle. It's easy to imagine Aristotle and his pupils strolling here. They would have explored many subjects, because Aristotle is considered one of the greatest intellectuals of all time. Modern scholars still study his contributions to philosophy, science, and politics. Alexander also learned to hunt, ride, and fight, skills that served him well in later life. Taking the kingship at age 20, he went on to conquer Persia and much of the Middle East. Alexander may have lived over 2,000 years ago, but he had one thing in common with many people today. He liked wine. A short distance south of Thessaloniki, winemaker Vangelis Gerovasiliou has carefully nurtured this vineyard for some 40 years. And he spent even longer trying to perfect the art of winemaking. But if it hadn't been for a dismissive remark, he may never have taken this path. When studying agriculture, Vangelis got interested in ways to improve the taste of wine. He consulted a chemist who replied bluntly, "It's a secret." Annoyed by the terse response, Vangelis decided to discover the secret himself. Since then, he's dedicated his life to the study and practice of winemaking. Vangelis has even managed to rescue a long-forgotten Greek wine from oblivion. Years ago, he heard about a white wine grape called the Malagousia. Once popular, it had fallen out of use in winemaking. After some experimentation, Vangelis successfully fermented the grape. With its expressive nose and rich aromas, the reborn Malagousia wine soon caught on. And today, it's produced all over Greece. The city of Kavala, on the Aegean's northern shores, has an unusual claim to fame. It played host to the man who killed Julius Caesar. In 44 BC, Marcus Brutus and his associates assassinated Caesar in Rome. Public outrage at the deed forced Brutus to retreat to Kavala with his fleet. Defeated in battle soon afterwards, he committed suicide. But Kavala's most famous landmark dates from more recent times. This magnificent two-tiered structure snakes its way through the downtown area, running for a distance of 920 feet. This is the aqueduct that once supplied the city with water. It's known simply as Kamares, which means arches. The aqueduct contains 3 tiers and as many as 60 arches. Kavala's busy port road runs directly underneath two of them. A narrow canal runs along the top tier. Water from the nearby mountains used to stream along the canal and feed into fountains located around the town. At first glance, the Kamares looks to date from ancient times, and indeed it is built over an older structure that was erected by the Romans. But the main structure was built 500 years ago by order of the greatest Ottoman Sultan, Suleiman the Magnificent. The aqueduct is no longer in active use, but it remains the most recognized site in Kavala. The mighty Pindus mountain range dominates the landscape of northern Greece. Nestled within these forbidding peaks is a lake district of extraordinary beauty. This lake on Mount Tymphi is known as Dracolimni, or Dragon Lake. The lake has long been associated with magic and mystery. Local legends say that two dragons once lived in these mountains. They fought constantly, hurling rocks and pine trees at one another, smashing holes in the earth and creating the enchanting environment that we see today. Of course, it's just a myth, but a kind of dragon does inhabit these lakes. The alpine newt is a type of amphibious lizard that loves mountainous regions with easy access to water. You can't see them from the air, but they're all over this landscape, averaging just 4 inches in length. Local people even refer to them as little dragons. They are probably the reason why this pool is named Dragon Lake. Not far from Dragon Lake lies another place of jaw-dropping beauty. This is Greece's answer to the Grand Canyon, the magnificent Vikos Gorge. Cutting through the Pindus Mountains for a distance of around 12 miles. Far below, a dry riverbed snakes its way along the gorge floor. In summer, the Voidomatis River dries up completely. But when winter comes, it will run through the gorge once again. Vikos Gorge is actually much smaller than the Grand Canyon, but it still makes the Guinness Book of Records. Relative to its width, it is actually the deepest gorge in the world. At its lowest, it plunges to a depth of 1,600 feet. The ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus said, "The road up and the road down is one and the same." It's a quote that suits the Vikos Gorge perfectly. No matter where you walk or look, in any season, you find the same wild beauty. East of Vikos Gorge, the landscape gives way to a mini museum of rural architecture. Tumbling down a green hillside, Kipi Village is a jumble of old houses, stone roofs, and arched facades. Pretty much everything here is made of stone from the surrounding mountains. Kipi is one of a network of over 40 traditional villages that dot this landscape, giving it a mystical storybook feel. The population has dwindled in many villages, like the quiet and romantic Dilofo. But now, tourism is revitalizing the area. This region is known as Zagori, meaning beyond the mountains, because this remote area never truly came under the rule of outsiders. And during World War II, Zagori won a surprise victory using a secret weapon. Many Greeks know Zagori best for its heroic defense against the forces of fascism in World War II. On a lonely hilltop, an imposing figure stands sentinel against the Blue Mountains. It might not look like a war memorial, but that's exactly what it is. It commemorates the indomitable women of this region and their contribution to the Greek war effort during World War II. In the autumn of 1940, Italian forces advanced through these mountains where they were met by the Greek army. The women of Zagori provided vital support, carrying boxes of ammunition and food to the front line. With the women's help, the Greek troops managed to stave off the Italian assault. The statue was erected in 1993 and stands 20 feet tall, a fitting tribute to the women who endured so much to defend Greece against fascism. An equally unique feature can be found in the Pindus Mountains, a road that's said to be one of the most dangerous in the world. Anyone who plans to negotiate the route between Perdikaki and Patiopoulou had better take care. The rough surface, hairpin turns, and absence of guardrails combine to make the road a treacherous proposition. In the summer, sheep graze on the mountains, and farmers Dimitris Kapis and Dimitris Zikas need to take this hazardous route to reach their flocks. On some sections, there's a sheer drop on both sides. Today it's clear, but rain and heavy mist descend frequently, turning the route into a death trap. The farmers have to make this hazardous journey every day. The island of Corfu has long been a tourist hotspot. Corfu has a population of just 100,000 people. But in an ordinary year, it can attract up to 1 million tourists. And yet, a sense of individuality and independence has always set Corfu apart. Maybe because it was one of the few parts of Greece and the entire Balkan region never to fall under the rule of the Ottoman Empire. That's partly due to the island's impressive defenses. A powerful citadel, the old fort overlooks the harbor. But even it pales in comparison to the mighty new fort, built by the Venetians in the 16th and 17th centuries. In 1716, a ferocious storm broke over Corfu town. Locals reported seeing Spiridon, the island's patron saint, brandishing a flaming sword. Many believed it was divine intervention, because at that very time, 30,000 Turkish soldiers were besieging Corfu town. The storm wrecked the Turkish fleet, forcing the attackers to withdraw. The islanders had called on Saint Spiridon to save them, and it seems their prayers were answered. Whatever the truth, they survived the siege of Corfu. Today, the island's sense of independence remains undimmed. But it has a surprising connection to a foreign institution, the British royal family. Corfu is closely linked with a foreign family that happens to be the most famous in the world. Just south of Corfu town, an impressive villa stands surrounded by woodland. Mon Repos Palace was built in 1826 as a summer residence for the island's governor. On June 10, 1921, the nephew of King Constantine I of Greece was born here. He was named Prince Philip of Greece and Denmark. But he's better known today simply as Prince Philip, the spouse of Queen Elizabeth II. You might think a royal baby born into privilege would have a trouble-free childhood. It didn't turn out that way for Philip. In 1922, Constantine I was forced to abdicate as King of Greece. With the Greek royal family under threat, 18-month-old Philip and his parents fled Corfu on a British naval vessel. Legend has it that they carried the infant aboard in a makeshift cot made from an orange crate. These days, Philip is the oldest member of the British royal family, and he always seems to have impeccable British credentials. But he has never forgotten his Greek origins. Neither have plenty of other people, who often call him Phil the Greek. Tucked away in the southwest corner of Corfu is the island's longest and perhaps most beautiful stretch of shoreline. The waters of Issos Beach are so clear that the seabed can be seen from the air. So far, it's avoided being swamped by mass tourism, thanks largely to its unique setting. Corycion Lake separates Issos from most of the mainland, so no hotels have been built on the beach. That's one reason it was the location for another iconic scene from the Bond movie, For Your Eyes Only. In the film, Bond goes to Corfu and spends the night with the beautiful Countess Liesl. Afterwards, the pair go for a romantic walk on the beach, but are interrupted by the evil henchman, Locke. The henchman and his goons chase them across the beach in dune buggies. Bond and the Countess get separated. The Countess tries to escape by running along the shoreline, but Locke ruthlessly runs her down. Bond is captured. But of course, he lives to fight another day. Many consider For Your Eyes Only the best of Roger Moore's Bond films. And Corfu was an ideal location for the blend of action and romance. It's not surprising that James Bond found love here. There's something about the island that stimulates attraction. One place in particular is famous for it. Near Cape Drastis, at Corfu's northwestern tip, the water slices through layers of sandstone to create a tiny cove. This is the Canal d'Amour, or Channel of Love, formed by many years of wind and water erosion. Surrounded by gold-tinged cliffs and ending at a small beach, the setting couldn't be more idyllic or romantic. Legend has it that if a couple swims through the canal together, their love will last forever. Dimitris Mitrakas and Fotini Gramenou decide to put this to the test. And if you're single, that's okay too. Another legend says that anyone who swims through the passage will meet the love of their life. But while many like to frolic in the water, there are some who prefer to dance on air. Deep within the Pindus Mountains is a place where earth, sky, and water meet in a dramatic set piece. Kremasta Lake is an artificial lake created in the 1960s. But it is most famous for the bridge that spans it. Tatarna Bridge is a box girder bridge over 1,500 feet long. Completed in 1973, it was built on the site of an older stone bridge. When the Greeks rose up against their Ottoman rulers in the 1820s, an important battle was fought here. But today, the stage is set for a very different spectacle by one of Greece's most unusual performers. Katerina Soldatou is an aerial dancer. She performs in mid-air, suspended from the bridge above. A pioneer of this dance form, Katerina is the founder of Greece's first aerial dance school. She was once a track and field athlete, but she found aerial dance even more exciting than competition. As Katerina performs, she may feel like Aeolus, the god of the wind. Legend has it that he makes his home right here in northern Greece. Katerina says dancing gives her a sense of total weightlessness that is both terrifying and liberating. But more than anything, she dances to make people aware of Greece's stunning natural environment and history. She calls this project Greece Has Soul, a timely reminder of how incredible this country is and why it must be preserved forever.